I swore I would never run another business ever again. And that lasted about a year. And then I started my second business. So my second business was a fashion consulting business. So I lost all of those contracts in the space of a month, and I was suddenly unemployed and unemployable. I could not get work. I couldn't even get a bar job. I could not get any work at all. I tried to go back to the construction site. They didn't want me back. And my brother, this was in 2015, said, you need to go and create an online course teaching people how to be a celebrity stylist. So I was like, okay, cool, I can do that. So I taught the world's first online fashion styling course. That course did 6 figures in the first year, and it still does 6 figures every year since then. And I haven't touched a thing.
Hey there, it's Sandee Sgarlata. Get ready to dive deep into incredible stories of people who've taken life's challenges and turned them into a roadmap to happiness. On this show, we're not just talking about overcoming obstacles. We're uncovering the real, gritty secrets to living a life filled with peace, joy, and genuine happiness. This is Happiness Solved. So let's get started, because happiness is a choice, and the choice is yours.
Amber Renae, I'm so excited to have you on today. And thank you. You're calling in from Australia. And thank you so much for getting up early for this.
Yes. I'm excited to connect with you, Sandee, and all the happiness women and men that are listening to us today.
Yes. So I love your background. When I got I think it was your assistant, or it may have been your PR person, reached out to me, and I'm like, civil engineer, serial entrepreneur, and TV star from Australia. I'm like, wow, you're known as Australia's leading voice in online business. I love that. So how did you go from, let's hear the backstory, going from civil engineer to now you're like this, influencer on social media?
So I used to work on a construction site building roads and bridges as a civil engineer. I painted my steel cap boots pink, and my nickname on site was Pinky. But I realized that really wasn't something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I quit that job and started my very first business, which was a fashion design label. So I started that business with me on a sewing machine. I made 4 shirts the first week and sold 4 shirts. The next week I made 8 shirts and sold 8 shirts. And then 5 years later, I had 120 accounts around the world. We exported to Paris, Tokyo, LA, and South Africa. We dressed some of the biggest celebrities in the time, which back in the day, this was Paris Hilton. And this was before social media. So we were doing influencer marketing before influencer marketing was even a thing, dressing the world's biggest influencer. So that was my first business. And it did bring me a lot of happiness and a lot of joy. But it was also a very tough business to be in. I firmly believe that business model is very faulty. You have to pay for everything up front, and then you have to wait a long time to get the money back. So I guess the universe was probably listening to me and listening to what a greater plan. My manufacturer ended up going out of business, which caused me to go out of business, and I had to go bankrupt because we'd paid for everything up front. And I had a nervous breakdown on the side of a highway. I was hospitalized and found out that I had cancer, stomach ulcers, and I had to go on anti-anxiety and antidepressant tablets. So that was my first business.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So like none of that is in your bio, but which no. I'm happy because, I like to have these surprise moments where my guests, I'm like, oh, right. Because I'm not a very good actress. So, wow. Okay. Continue and we'll jump back.
Sure. So that was my first business. I swore I would never run another business ever again. And that lasted about a year. And then I started my second business. So my second business was a fashion consulting business. So, trading time for money. I would show up each day. I would do one job, get paid for that one job, as I'm sure a lot of your audience are currently in that one-to-one type business model. Yep. So that business model, again, I started with me having no clue, just working for free, showing up, doing the thing that I love, the thing that made me really happy, which was styling people in fabulous outfits. And 3 years later, I had 3 of the best roles in the country. So I had the fashion editor for a big glossy publication. I was the resident stylist for our biggest radio and TV network, and the celebrity stylist for a bunch of the biggest celebs here in Australia. And I also was the TV presenter for Fashion TV. So I thought I was living my absolute best fashionista life. I was sitting front row at fashion weeks and interviewing designers and celebrities and models. And like, this was my dream and what I thought I would do for the rest of my life. And again, the universe had bigger plans for me. So
Doesn't it always work that way? It's like life happens when you're busy making other plans, right?
Exactly. And when you think that you're on the right path, oh, actually you're not. I'm going to push you over into a different direction. So I lost all of those contracts in the space of a month. and I was suddenly unemployed and unemployable. I could not get work. I couldn't even get a bar job. I could not get any work at all. I tried to go back to the construction site. They didn't want me back. So I had nothing going for me except that I'd learned all of this knowledge. I had so much wisdom about the fashion industry. I
Right.
really, I'd reached the top ranks of that. I knew how to do it. And my brother, this was in 2015, said, you need to go and create an online course teaching people how to be a celebrity stylist. So I was like, okay, cool, I can do that. So I taught the world's first online fashion styling course. That course did 6 figures in the first year, and it still does 6 figures every year since then. And I haven't touched a thing. And so
Wow. Now that's how it's
happiness.
done.
That is happiness.
That's how it's done.
Yes.
And that's how the rest of us we're trying to figure out, okay, what course can I make so that I wake up every morning and I've got a few $1,000s sitting in my bank account overnight, right? That's what everybody's trying to figure out.
Well, do we want to talk about that, Sandee? Because I can help people sort of understand their
Yeah,
journey
but I want to hear the rest of your story. So I'm taking notes. So we're going to come back to that.
Well, that's where really the happiness begins, I guess. I mean, this is the first business where I've had true happiness, true total freedom, total time freedom, independent freedom, where I can travel the world however I want, do work however long I wish to work, and I'm getting paid for my knowledge, which was a big thing for me because in my last businesses, I knew I could outwork anyone. I could work harder than anyone, but I couldn't earn more because I was trading time for dollars. So it didn't matter if I was working 16 hours a day, that was the amount of money I was ever going to earn.
Right.
Whereas in this business, the harder I work, the more money I make. So, but now I'm sort of much more focused on my happiness and my freedom and working less and less and earning more and more. So I went on to monetize all of my skills and passions that I'd learned offline. So my second course was on personal branding and publicity. My third course was on mindset. So obviously I had a few hurdles to overcome. So I've developed some mindset rituals. And my fourth course is a course about courses. So now I have the pleasure of helping people figure this out for themselves. I wrote The Handbook, a book about online business, and I now have an agency where we create online courses for time poor experts. So that's where, and that brings us to today, Sandee. Now I get
that brings you today. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. So I took some notes here because we're gonna circle back to a lot of this stuff. So let's go back to the nervous breakdown. Was that a culmination of losing the business, or was it like years and years of building up to that? Or I mean, was it that one thing, or do you think it was just a lot of things? And how did you recover from that?
Great question. So that business, I worked 7 days a week for 5 years straight, doing 16, 17-hour days. I didn't have the concept of taking a day off, taking a break. I worked every birthday, every Christmas. That's just what I knew how to do. So obviously I was not taking any sort of physical care for myself. And this was 20 years ago. We didn't know about self-care back then. We just knew you had to work really hard. That was the mantra, right? And then in addition, that business had a lot of identity wrapped up in it. So that brand was called ARX, and I was ARX. So losing that business felt like I lost an entire identity, like my entire life. So there was a lot of mental grappling that had to go on with that because I felt like the universe had done me dirty. I'd worked really hard and I was doing something that I really loved and, I was good at it. And now suddenly it wasn't around anymore. And I really had to grapple with the concept of like, hang on, I did all the things that the universe said you're supposed to do, and it didn't work out for me. So it was a mix of physically not taking care of myself and mentally having a lot to reconcile with losing that identity.
Okay, so working for 5 years without taking a day off and that kind of hours, you're lucky it didn't kill you.
Yeah. Well, it tried to. Almost
It tried to.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because we all know that that's not good. Mm-hmm. So, okay, so how did you, what I want to, stumbling over my words here, folks. Sorry about that. What did you learn from that experience that will help you so it doesn't happen again?
So in hindsight, and it has taken me a number of years to learn all this.
Everything's hindsight 2020, right?
I didn't wake up the next day and realize all of this. But in hindsight, I realized that I was picking up skills and life lessons and knowledge that would eventually lead me to be on the right path that is my dream path and is my forever path. So
Right.
that path, that fashion industry, you do really have to work at that pace in order to keep up with the industry. That's how the cycles work. So that industry is not sustainable, and the business model is not a sustainable long-term thing, really
Right.
for the majority of people. So
Right.
that was for a season in my life. And in that season, I picked up a lot of skills that I learned about business, about manufacturing, about, running a business. So all of that knowledge has helped me in all of the businesses past then.
Oh, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. And I love, Steve Jobs' quote,
Mhm.
right, about connecting the dots, because that's really it, right?
Yeah.
You
So
you
that
you kind of see how I got here, and you could look back and you connect the dots and be like, okay, that now it all makes sense.
exactly. And so that quote that he's talking about is, he studied calligraphy as an elective during his computer science degree. So he was studying computer science, but he was interested in calligraphy. So when he created the first Mac, the Mac was the first computer to have beautiful fonts. And so we have beautiful fonts now on our computers as a result of Steve Jobs being passionate enough to go and study calligraphy as an elective, which is, incredible.
Another probably useless fact to know and share, but hey, that's interesting nevertheless. Wow. Okay, so everything that you're doing today as is a result of your first business, which I'm already thinking of multiple courses you can create from that, and I'm sure you have too, because I'm like, oh, like she should do a course on this and a course on that, right? But it was what it sounds like is you realize, like, when you're trading time for money, that's where the cap is
Yeah.
for most people on the planet.
Hmm.
What can people do to figure out how can they break through that? And how did you break through the fear of it? Well, you may not have had a choice, but right. But still, there's a lot of fear for people to get rid of that job, which I left my corporate job over a year ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I retired from corporate, and now, because I was tired of trading time for money, you know,
And look at you now. Now you have a hit podcast and you're telling me about a TV show. You're living your best life.
I'm trying to, yes.
See, there is
I'm
life
also
on.
semi-retired too,
Yeah.
so I'm at that age where it's like, okay, I can't do 40-hour work weeks anymore. I'm
Hmm.
just, you reach an age where, there's other things that just take priority, and you try to make it happen. But
Yeah.
yes, but so for that person, what can they do to, really figure that out?
Right. So let's talk about how to figure out your genius zone, because I really believe that everyone has something that they've learned in their past, in their home life, in their business life, that they can turn into some sort of online product, digital product, coaching experience, downloadable PDF, whatever it is, but something that they own, that the government can't shut down at a whim. This was something that was very evident during the pandemic, that I was like, oh my God, all these businesses are getting shut
Right,
down. For
right.
me, I wasn't affected at all. And so this is when I was like, you guys, you all need to have something that you own, that nothing, it's yours. It's your legacy. And to find that genius zone, I encourage people to have a think about, what do people come to you for, and to ask to pick your brain on? So what is that thing that people always go, oh, I'm going to ask Sandee about that. Sandee will know about that thing. I'll send her a text, or I'll ask if she can have a coffee. And they come to you for that sort of knowledge. I promise you, you can turn that into some sort of digital product that you can sell either as a main business like I do, or even as a side hustle, just to have something that you can rely on as a backup.
I love it. And what is the best way for people to start promoting this? Like, how does that whole thing work?
So there are three ways that you can sell digital products. The first is content marketing. The second, so content marketing is posting on your own network, so social media. Everyone has a social media network. We all know how to use it these days. What I would recommend is figuring out one social media platform and then go and studying how to ace that platform. There is
Right.
so much free content online. You can watch 1,000 YouTube videos on how to grow your Instagram or how to grow your LinkedIn, whatever it is. So if you want to be a master of one of these platforms, go and study for masters, go and watch YouTube videos, learn. So that's content marketing. The second way is Facebook advertising. I'm sure we know a lot about Instagram and Facebook ads. It is expensive, but it's the fast way of selling digital products. And then the third way of selling digital products is by what we're doing today, Sandee, which is collaborating with someone else who is already speaking to the audience that you want to connect with. So
Right.
whether that means that you're going to go and speak to other podcasts, or maybe you've got someone who has, you can find someone with a Facebook group that you're going to jump in and do a free conversation in their Facebook group. Maybe someone who has a big Instagram following. You can jump in and do a free IGTV for their Instagram following. And this is the easiest way to get your message out.
I love it. I love it. So what do you recommend in terms of, putting it together? Because it's like I've put courses together, and it's like, how much information do you give? How much do you charge? Do I give too much information? Do I give too little? You know what I mean? Like, right. And I'm asking you this because there's sometimes when I see somebody, and I'll buy their course and I'm not getting what they promised. Right. And so there could be, I only brought that up because there could be people like, oh yeah, another course. Right. Like, because I think we've all thrown money away on some of these courses that didn't say what they were going to do. Mm-hmm. So how can you advise people to do it correctly so that they're going to get, because you want to turn that customer into a repeat customer.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly what you want your students to do, is to get to the end of the course, get the transformation that you're promising, and then rave about you and your course to everyone, all of their friends, and then come back and buy your next course. So that's exactly the what you want from your customers. The way to get that is by a method that I call an MBP, a minimum bankable product. I call it that because we get paid to create our MVP, so it's bankable. So what you're talking about there, all of those questions that you had, Sandee, what do I put in? How much information do I have? What do I include? What do I charge? Very valid questions. Every single course creator on the planet is currently asking themselves those questions. But every course creator tries to go from here to signature course, which is, the special platform, the beautiful videos, the workbook that's been graphic designed, all the modules, everything sorted. But it's almost impossible to go from idea phase to signature program phase because there's too many questions that you don't have answers to. Instead, there's a missing phase in the center called the MVP. The MVP is something that you sketch out in an afternoon. You don't shoot any beautiful videos. You don't create any magical workbooks. You dot point it out. Then you go out to market with this thing and you say, hey, I'm testing a product. It's called an MVP. I think it's going to be about this, this, and this. I think this is the transformation. I'm going to sell it to you very cheaply because I want you to come in, be my first round beta people, and you can give me feedback. So then you teach your MVP live in an environment like we're doing here, like either a live Zoom call or a live coaching call, and you ask for the feedback on the call. So as you're teaching it, maybe you got a whiteboard and you're teaching on your whiteboard, and then you go, Sandee, does that make sense? And Sandee might say, actually, it doesn't. You go, okay, thanks. I'm glad you've explained that. And then you have another go at teaching it. And then that's how you figure out all of your missing knowledge gaps, which is a really big thing for creating courses, because as experts, we often start teaching a course at point C, not knowing that our audience needs point B and point A in order to get to point C. We don't know that because we're the expert. We assume everyone has this level of knowledge. But when you do the MVP, you get all of these questions answered. And you also get what you're talking about there, the confidence to start putting this out there. Because at the end of your MVP, you'll have 5, 10, 15 testimonials that say, oh my God, this was the greatest experience. I had the best transformation. I love this. And so that gives you, as the course creator, the confidence to push forward and go, okay, this isn't worth $200. This is worth $500 or $1,000 or $2,000. This was a great experience. So then you have the confidence to put yourself out there, and you also see the transformation that you're getting. So that, as women, we often hold more value to wanting to help people. So if you have 5 people telling you, Sandee, this was the greatest thing I've ever done, please share this with other people, you go, okay, I will. And then that gives you the confidence boost to go and put yourself out there and start teaching this on a bigger scale.
I love that you brought up confidence, because that's a big part of it. That's a really big part of it, because if you're lacking the confidence, right, the energy around what you're putting out is not going to be there,
Yeah.
and people are going to know it.
Hmm. And
Yeah.
that's why the MVP is so simple, because you're not suggesting that it's going to be a world-class course. You're just saying, hey, I'm going to have a go. I'm going to try and teach you something.
Right.
And so there's a less stress on yourself to try and make it perfect. As women, we often get into perfectionism. So, you don't have to get into any of that with their MVP.
I love it. And you mentioned that you have a course about creating a course.
I do have a course about creating a course. It's called Freedom Funnels, and it teaches the
I love
MVP.
it.
But I also have a free class. I'm going to hopefully drop the link below. And there's a free class that will teach you the MVP formula. So it'll teach you your idea and then teach you how to map out your MVP. So if anyone's listening, I encourage you to go listen to that.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. A course, I was kind of laughing as I was writing it down. A course about courses, a course about creating courses. But you know what? That's a perfect example, Amber, of taking your knowledge and turning it into something that people can learn from. And it's generating that passive income. And I think that's the big point. We haven't really talked that much about that here. But if that's passive income, this is, like I said in the beginning, waking up and, oh, wow, I just made $2,000 last night. How awesome is that? Yay. Right?
Right.
How has that changed your life? I mean, the feeling, right? You wake up and you're like, oh my gosh.
The first time that I realized that I'd created this experience, I was in Bali. I used to spend 3, 4, 5 months of the year sort of traveling around on one-way plane tickets. And this one morning I was in Bali. I was staying in this beautiful, luxurious villa. I woke up in the morning, did a couple of hours of work, just sitting on my laptop in my villa, nothing fancy. Then I went out to do paddle boarding, but yoga paddle boarding. So you're on a paddle board, but you're
Oh,
doing
fun.
yoga. And
Yeah.
we were on this beautiful crystal clear water. And I was doing yoga on a paddleboard, and this giant turtle came up and said hello to me whilst I was like on the paddleboard. And I was like, this is 11 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. I've already made more money than I would have if I was an engineer working on a construction site doing 12-hour days. And this is my life now. And to this day, I have that exact same feeling every single day. Like every
Oh my
single day,
gosh.
whenever I get a notification, like I'm probably going to be on this call with you, and then someone's buying my course, and it's like, come on, that's you cannot describe that feeling. It's incredible.
I love it. I love it. So, how has that experience made you a better business owner, a better, woman, all of those things? Like, what would you say to sum it all up? Everything that you've been through.
I think everything that I've been through, when I look back on all of the experiences, it has led me to be in my most divine, perfect business model now. But it's not something that I would have chosen. So if it was up to me, I would still be running the fashion label. And then if it was up to me, I would still be running being the TV presenter and the celebrity stylist. I would not have quit any of those jobs. If it was up to me, I would still be doing them. But now that I'm in this business, I realize that this is my truest expression of all the gifts that I've been given. This really allows me to, live my best life, be the happiest I can be, have the most joy, have the most freedom. And it's interesting to see how I ended up here, because I just followed my bliss. So when I started, in fact, all 3 of my businesses, I started them with no intention of growing a global business. I started just because that's what I was into. When I started the fashion label, I was just making shirts for fun because I wanted to. When I started the celebrity styling, I used to work for free. I worked for free for the first 6 months, just styling people for free because I loved it. And now in this business, again, I didn't know that this was going to grow into this business. This was 2015. No one knew that this industry existed back then. I just knew I wanted to help people with the knowledge that I have. And so that's how I sort of started. I was just like, well, I'm going to teach you because I've got all this knowledge and I have a passion for helping people. So that's how I'm going to get started. So if anyone's listening to this, I encourage you to think about, like, what is that thing that you would do for free? What is that thing that lights you up? How would you follow your bliss? And I encourage you to go and follow that and see where that leads you. It may lead into a big business, or it might just be something that gives you more passion and joy and happiness in your life so that you can maintain your day job and, be a bit happier in your 9 to 5.
Yeah, because if you're making some extra money and you're feeding your soul by doing
Yeah.
that, that the happiness is just a byproduct of
Right.
that, for sure. All right, last question. there's going to be people out there saying, oh, yeah, that's easy for you to say, you did this and now you're making all this money. Pfft, you're right. What do you say to those folks?
So most of the people that come through my Freedom Funnels program, they make money within 2 weeks. So it's not a fact of like, oh, easy for you. It's a fact of follow the formula and you'll make money. So, and that's the beauty of this business. So when I started my last two businesses, I couldn't Google anything. Like I couldn't just YouTube something and learn how to do it. I couldn't go and buy someone's course
Right.
and download their 10 years of wisdom. I had to blood, sweat, and tears it. I had to figure it out myself. I had to try and learn the hard way, make the mistake myself, pick myself back up, try again. And that's
Right.
why I think we just have the hugest opportunity in the current moment, because so many people are sharing their knowledge about everything on every platform, free and paid, that you can just go and learn from other people, learn from their mistakes, implement their wisdom, implement their knowledge, and away you go.
Oh my gosh, for sure. Is there anything else that you want to share with the audience before we wrap this up?
I guess just enjoy the journey. I know a lot of your audience are entrepreneurs, and I always say that entrepreneurship is the biggest personal development journey that we can ever go on. So if anyone, all the listeners thinking that they were just going to start a business, no, you were going to face every one of your greatest fears, every one of your greatest limiting beliefs. You were going to have to be forced to face all of them. Every issue that you have about money or management or leadership or being seen and heard, you're going to have to be forced to face all of them. So just be aware that this is what entrepreneurship really is. It's got this fancy name on social media, but actually it's just the world's greatest personal development journey. So be aware that that's what you signed up for and be grateful for the journey.
I love that you said that, because I too am a serial entrepreneur, and this is probably, I don't know, my sixth or seventh business. And yeah, it is a lesson but you know what? Hey, I mean, I'm a self-help junkie. I've been doing this for 35 years. So I'm like, okay, what's next?
Yep. Signed up for this. Let's go.
Amber, it's such a delight to speak with you today. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. And thank you for joining us. And folks, check out Amber's website, amberrenae.com, her Facebook page, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Links will be in the show notes. And you got to check out that course, a course about creating a course, and her other courses, of course. All right, Amber, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, everyone, for listening today. I hope you and your family are healthy and safe, and that your lives are filled with peace, joy, and happiness. Take care, everyone.